And then when you dig a little bit deeper, you realize they value things like family life. I want quality time with my kids. I want to be able to be as fit as I used to be. And I want to be a fit grandparent. When I get really old, I want to make sure that I've got all this energy. So it's when you merge their true values with their goals, that's when you get really good results.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
The Health in the Real World podcast is sponsored by most exercises and workouts, whether they be running, biking, elliptical, rowing machine, traditional weightlifting, or even CrossFit, do not give you a balanced workout. And when you do workouts that neglect even one area, you're out of balance, resulting in pain and injury as well. Achieve your goals with the fitness program your chiropractor would love. Visit chrisjanke.com/pod to watch the free video. Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke and I'm here today with Sherry Edwards. Sherry, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on your show, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. So you work with nutrition and helping people get healthy. Why don't you fill in some of those gaps as far as who you are and who you help?
So I am a nutrition coach and I specifically work with masters athletes. I help them to increase performance and improve body composition. So drop any unwanted fat. And I do that through obviously nutrition science, but a lot of the work that I do is habit coaching and behavior coaching.
Nice. Is there a specific group of athletes or a specific sport that tends to gravitate toward you, or is it kind of a little bit of everybody?
There is, yeah. So although I do work with athletes from different kind of backgrounds, I do tend to attract a lot of CrossFit coaches. So CrossFitters, CrossFit coaches, and then from that on tends to be power lifters and then endurance athletes.
Interesting. And masters athletes, that's over what age?
That's technically over 35 for most sports. So not all sports, but most sports are going to be 35. But I think sort of the age range that I tend to work with is like 38 and up. And I do have a few clients that are like in their 50s as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So what tends to be the first step? Like somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to drop, an extra 5 pounds, or I want to drop a body fat percentage or two. What's the process? Like, what do you take them through at first?
The first thing is I get them to fill out a really long form that just tells me about their lives. Like it's not like people are generally surprised because they think that I just want to know their biometrics, like their weight, their height, like just give me the macro plan. I'm like, well, that's not really how it works. So I find out what their life circumstances are like. I mean, how stressful you are, how many hours do you work? What kind of work do you do? Where do you live? Who does the cooking? What kind of food do you like? And that gives me an idea as to the lifestyle that they're living. Because if I were to just design like a macro plan for everybody, you're not going to get the results because it needs to be achievable. It needs to work around, it needs to be flexible enough for that person where nobody is the same. You can get two people that are the same, that have the same biometrics, but if they don't have the same lifestyle, it's going to be really difficult for one person to hit their goals than the other person. So that's kind of where I start. And that's why I say, it's the nutrition science as well. But a lot of the stuff that I do has to be the habit coaching because I have to understand how they're living their lives basically.
Well, that's definitely the habit coaching is sort of your vehicle into the one-on-one, right? Because you could just say, you could post on your Instagram account and just put all the information that you have as far as nutritional science. And then what? Like, all right, there's your puzzle piece, but how do I fit this puzzle piece into my particular puzzle? And so it seems like the habit coaching is sort of the way that you do that, right?
That's exactly right. And, I put a lot of science stuff. People want to know exactly how many grams of carbs should they eat for this kind of training, how many grams of protein they should eat. And I put all of that stuff out on social media. So that's kind of like free content. I'm like, there's a science. But then it's, how do you put that into your daily life? How do you apply that so that you're consistently doing it and so that you're getting the results? Because, you'll know as well, because you work in this field, you'll see people that have, quote unquote, the perfect diet from Monday through to Friday. And then it just kind of like falls by the wayside. And then it's like forever trying to get back on the, like, I'm feeling good about myself again. And that's a really, really hard cycle to break. So that's basically what I do as a nutrition coach. Okay, so what are the gaps? Like, where are we struggling? Are we struggling because, and for the most part, most people struggle because they give up everything Monday through to Friday. So it's kind of learning to balance that out. Well, what are some of your favorite foods? Can you eat pizza during the week? Does it have to be a weekend food? Can you eat popcorn during the week, some chocolate during the week, have some beer, and balance it out so that you're not crashing and burning by the time you get to the end of the week because you miss those things that you've given up.
Right. It's like you've been so deprived, and it's self-imposed, right? You're so deprived of, I
Yeah.
just want a slice of pizza, and a slice turns into what, 6, 7?
A whole pizza.
The
Yeah,
whole pizza.
exactly. Yeah.
I have a client who used to train with me 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I always thought it was so funny by the end of the weekend. So he comes in, he walks in Monday morning. He's like a complete beginner client. And I said, what's going on with you, man? By last Friday, you were just a rock star. You were doing all the hardest exercises. And so we break down the weekend, right? It was beers, it was pizza, it was watching the Warriors games all day, movies, just binging. And it's incredible, especially like you work with masters athletes, and 35 is definitely when I started noticing a difference. And this particular client was, I think, in his late 50s. So you can't just binge watch basketball all weekend and expect to just bounce right back up on Monday morning, right?
Yeah. Or drink beer. Like, maybe we did that when we're in college, but when you get to a certain age, like your body's going to take a little bit longer to recover from like, pulling an all-nighter.
Sure. Right. Exactly. So do you typically work with people like a couple times in the beginning, or is there like an ongoing process, like a check-in process, anything like that?
So the one-to-one program that I have is a 12-week program. So it's minimum of 12 weeks, basically, because that's kind of when you can see the progress. And then I check in on them once a week if that is what they want. Some people want to reach out to me a little bit more than that, and that's absolutely fine. They've got access to me on like Slackline. And then we just start by just checking in and seeing, okay, well, what do you eat? I don't do meal plans for a specific reason. I don't, because I know that we all have different preferences. And if I were to say, okay, well, you're eating this much fish, this much, kale, nobody's going to follow it because everybody wants to be able to eat what they want. So I just, as I said, look at their lifestyle and see if this is whatever it is that they want to eat, can we make better choices? And are we able to consistently do that? And then we just meet where I email them tasks and then an action plan once a week. And then once every 2 weeks, we kind of meet online and then just have that discussion about whether things have been easy or if they've been challenging, and then just break things down from there.
Nice. Are you taking analytics too? Because you're working with athletes, which is pretty cool, right? Unlike, the average person who maybe doesn't have their workouts tracked very accurately. So do you guys break those down too? Like, oh, hey, your mile time got a little bit better in the last couple months, and you do stuff like that as well?
Yeah. So I track, so there are external things that I track, like how many hours they're sleeping, what their performance is like. So there are specific things that they want to track. So some people say, okay, well, I want to work on my list. I want to have new PR. So we'll track that as well. And then there are internal things that we'll track. So we'll track things like mood and energy, because how do you actually measure that? So it's more about taking notes and saying, okay, well, yesterday I had one bowl of rice within the hour of training or something. And they'll be like, actually, I felt incredible. So obviously that strategy is working for them. Or they'll look back and say, wow, today I felt incredibly slow and sluggish at training. And I didn't quite hit the last PR that I had from last week. And then they'll look back and they'll say, okay, well, I wasn't eating enough. So there's always going to be that parallel, looking at how their training is going and looking at what they're eating and also their sleep and everything else as well.
Yeah. It's kind of merging the objective numbers with the subjective experience of the person.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So Sherry, I want to go really big picture with this as far as like motivation and goal setting and more like life in general, right? Values. So like beyond health, like what drives you? And the way I like to ask this question is, let's say you're giving a keynote speech at a corporation, or you're giving a commencement talk at a like a college graduation or something like that. What's your 1 to 2 minute motivational speech for them as far as how they can get the most out of life, your way, the Sherry way?
I would say that whatever goals they're striving for has to be in line with their values, right? And I don't mean like the wishy-washy, like, what do you value? Like, it has to be what you truly value and how you identify as a person. Because this is when people come and they say, okay, I just want to lose weight. Well, why do you want to lose weight? I want to lose weight because I want to feel better. Okay, well, why do you want to feel better? And then when you dig a little bit deeper, you realize they value things like family life. I want quality time with my kids. I want to be able to be as fit as I used to be. And I want to be a fit grandparent. When I get really old, I want to make sure that I've got all this energy. So it's when you merge their true values with their goals, that's when you get really good results. Or some people come to me and they say, I want to make it to the top of my age category in my sport this year. It's when you merge the true value with their goals that it feels incredibly powerful. And it feels like there's like this one goal, right? As opposed to, I just want to lose weight because I want to look good. Like you can see that there is a difference when people's goals don't align with their values because they struggle to do the habits that are actually consistently going to give them the results. The people whose goals are very shallow and are not in line with their true values aren't able to keep up with the consistent habits, hitting their protein numbers, sleeping well, practicing good habits, because it doesn't feel real to them. Like they just want a set of abs. Well, if you just want a set of abs, why is that actually important? And then you dig deeper, well, it's actually not. And that's why it's really hard for them to keep up with the diet or the nutrition plan. But people who have a really deep sense of purpose, those are the people that thrive because they want that goal, because it means so much to them, because it's super valuable. So I will always say, this is how I start my program. What do you value? What is super valuable to you? And then we'll talk about it. Why is that significant? And then when you base everything, it's like, that's their moonshot goal. Then every single thing you do, you're like laser targeting towards that one thing. Then everything else is just noise. Everything else just starts to like feel a little bit easier because you know exactly what you want.
Yeah, you're taking unfortunately, in industry, health, wellness, it's very like glamorized and, cover shot on a magazine. You're taking something that, like you said, well, why do you want abs? Well, I actually don't. I don't really care about that much, but
yeah.
You're actually incorporating it into something that's real and meaningful. And you're right. If you have something like that, that's that meaningful, you're going to do it. You're going to do the habits. Real quick for myself, do I have it? No. I've wanted to do meal prep forever, right? Like I need to be able to set my meals up and do, I'm researching what the bodybuilders do and all that, right? Get enough protein and partitioning it out throughout the day. I've never gone longer than 3 or 4 days being able to do that because I honestly just don't care. And
yeah.
I realized that because, well, if I cared, I would do it. About 2 months ago, I started meal prepping for myself and my kids. So I pick them up from school and then I'm with them at the park. We just go to the park and play for like 3 hours. And I started meal prepping and I haven't missed a day. And for somebody who's never gone longer than 3 days, I haven't missed a day. So I'll cook them these. It looks like I'm holding this case of meal. I have 4 kids. So there's just tons of, there's like 10 meals in there. There's 2 for each of us. And it's like a 10-pound bag that I'm carrying of food. And I just want to speak to what you were saying because I'm kind of a testimonial as far as absolutely right. If something's not important to you, you're just not going to do it. But if something is, you don't need any motivation. You don't need anybody saying like, come on, come on. It'll just happen, right?
Absolutely. That's the best example as well, because when you were just doing it for yourself, you're like, I don't know, I don't really care. But when you were doing it for someone else and for the most important people in your life, that's when it just felt natural to do. It's not a chore. You just do
Right.
it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Sherry, I want to give people a chance to contact you. How do people get a hold of you? Website, social media?
So my website is www.munchiesandmacros.com, and my Instagram name is also at Munchies and Macros, but it's got an underscore in between the words.
Nice. And then real quick, how do people get started with your program? You mentioned your 12-week program. What's kind of your commercial on that?
So just reach out to me. I do have a freebie on my Instagram as well, if they want to just download that. And that is just kind of like a starting point for people who kind of already understand about macronutrients. So it's more about nutrient timing. So to help you partition your meal so that you know when to eat your protein, your carbs, and your fats relative to your training time, so that you can recover better. You can improve on your body composition and your performance. So it's just kind of like a starting point. So anybody can download that. It's on my bio on my Instagram, and then that will give them an opportunity to kind of join my newsletter. And I send out stuff every week, so little tips on like nutrition science and habit stuff.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, Sherry, thank you so much again for joining me. Again, this is Health in the Real World. We're here today with Sherry Edwards. And Sherry, hope to talk with you soon.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.